Coming up on One Detroit, a frank conversation on getting Detroit businesses to hire more people of color, plus fighting racism with literacy. And in the wake of the pandemic, how does one town cope? A look at the challenges retailers face in the city of Clawson. And we remember Jamie Samuelson, veteran sports broadcaster and husband to One Detroit managing editor, Christy McDonald. I'm Stephen Henderson. One Detroit is coming up.
Support for this program provided by W.K. Kellogg Foundation, a partner with communities where children come first. The Cynthia and Etzel Ford Fund for Journalism at Detroit Public TV.
From Delta Faucets to Behr Paint, MASCO Corporation is proud to deliver products that enhance the way consumers all over the world experience and enjoy their living spaces. MASCO, serving Michigan communities since 1929. The DTE Foundation is a proud sponsor of Detroit Public TV, among the state's largest foundations committed to Michigan-focused giving. We support organizations that are doing exceptional work in our state. Visit dtefoundation.com to learn more.
Business Leaders for Michigan, dedicated to making Michigan a top 10 state for jobs, personal income, and a healthy economy. NISSAN Foundation, and viewers like you.
Welcome to One Detroit. I'm Stephen Henderson. Christy is away this week. Her husband and veteran radio broadcaster Jamie Samuelson passed away after a 19-month battle with colon cancer. Our hearts go out to Christy and her family. Turning now to Tuesday's primary election, it was a day unlike any other, with a record number of absentee ballots cast and health safety measures in place at the polls. In a recent One Detroit survey, we asked if you believe that mail-in voting is secure. More than 70% of you who responded on Facebook said you were confident about the security of mail-in voting. What was your experience on voting day? Let us know on Twitter or Facebook. Coming up on the show, a roundtable on the importance of Detroit businesses hiring and promoting more people of color. One Detroit contributor Nolan Finley talks with Pamela Good of the nonprofit Beyond Basics about the steps needed to provide reading resources to Detroit public school students. Also, in the wake of the pandemic, how does a city cope? We went to Southeast Oakland County to look at the challenges retailers are facing in the city of Clawson. But we start with diversity in the workforce. Local communications and marketing consultants Mark Lee and Karen Dumas recently wrote an op-ed in the Detroit News stressing the importance of businesses hiring and promoting more people of color. It's especially vital in a city like Detroit, which is approximately 80% African American. I caught up with Mark, Karen, and Trina Scott, Chief Diversity Officer at Rock Ventures, on American Black Journal.
The joint piece that Mark and I did was kind of spurred by a picture that was posted from Quicken about their incoming intern class for, I guess, this summer, and the lack of diversity in that picture, the lack of presence and participation of Black people and of people of color all around. And so Mark and I have been talking about it, and we decided to do a joint piece and not only talk about the problem, but also recommend, a few suggestions, because people are looking like, okay, we want to do something. What do we do?
Yeah. Mark, your work is about opportunity, getting opportunity for people who typically are left out of it. Talk about sort of why we have this persistent problem with this in a city that is more than 80% African American.
That is the million-dollar question, because we've been talking about this for quite a while. And why in the city of Detroit, 80% African American, to your point, do we still have a significant gap? I think at the end of the day, what it boils down to is still getting the right people at the table. We have to get people at the table. And if we can get people at the table at the senior level positions, really get them engaged in strategic planning process, get them engaged in recruiting process, identify a strategy that's focused on getting into the community, getting the organizations involved, engaged in the community with the consumers at hand, so to speak, that will help this process. This will help this issue.
Trina, this is not the first time that we've heard people level some criticism at Quicken Loans and the other companies that Dan Gilbert owns about diversity, respond to the criticism of this photo, first of all, and the intern class, and then talk about some of the things that that you guys have been doing to try to address those criticisms.
Yes, no, I appreciate the platform, and I also appreciate the feedback. One is, serving as the Chief Diversity Officer. I've been at the organization for 3.5 years, and it was our team members before I started that made the business case for 100% of someone's time, treasure, and effort to be focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I have to tip my hat to our team members to raising that up to our senior leadership team of the Y. The second thing is, throughout this journey that we've been on, this intentional journey, I would say, mistakes will happen. And I don't call this marketing intern, because I want to be clear, that wasn't reflective of our entire intern class. It was for the marketing team, and it was a true picture. It says to all of us that we have a lot of work still to do. And so in our intentional effort in this space, I can give you what we've been working on, but I also have to be very transparent that it's not going to flip its head overnight. And so holding our team members and our leaders accountable is really where we are. And how we've been able to do that have been a few things. One is in response to George Floyd's murder, we doubled down on our efforts around racial inequity. And really, it started inside out. Cleaning our own house is what we've been calling it. Starting first with our leaders and our senior most leaders, so that we can have introspective review of how we show up every day, decisions that we make, how we include in equity, inclusion, and diversity in every decision that we make. So as we've created this strategy around racial inequity, our lens has been keenly focused on the following things: recruiting, leadership development, team member engagement, and government affairs. So the things that relate to homeownership, the things that relate to becoming a loan officer, and the requirements that are at a federal level, and how can we influence that, our communication with law enforcement, engagement in that space, and then lastly, our communication with our team members. And so, I don't have an excuse for you. I have what we are planning to do and how we are moving forward in that space. I think that to address specifically the marketing intern class, I think that we've unpacked a few things. One is, we know that we need to be first accountable for the top of our funnel and where our talent leads coming from. We've been very intentional about our engagement with historically Black colleges and universities. Once we get those students and we collect those resumes, how are we holding the hiring leaders accountable for that? We need to bring in awareness and understanding the business imperative around why diverse perspectives are important to our bottom line. And I think that bringing awareness to the why first is so important. So we had to focus on inclusion. Why is inclusion so important? Yes, we're in the Blackest city in the United States of America, but we need to have people understand why that's so important to us and our bottom line here as it relates to our efforts in the city. And so that awareness is what we've been working on. And now we're at a point where we're holding our leaders accountable.
One Detroit contributor, Nolan Finley, recently wrote a column advocating for increased literacy as a way to fight racism and build opportunities for Detroit students. He talked with Pamela Good of Beyond Basics, a nonprofit that provides literacy tutoring in Detroit public schools, about what it would take to provide reading resources for students across the district.
Tell us about your program and how it works.
Well, we are unique in a way, but our curriculum is known curriculum. I think the science of reading is out there. The way to go about getting kids reading is known. Applying it to those that are farthest behind is where we're really unique. We work with those kids who are more than 2 grade levels behind. Mm-hmm. That makes all the difference, just believing in them and rolling out what they need. And it works. And
it's intensive one-on-one tutoring, correct? And you all say that in most cases, within 6 weeks, you could bring a child to grade level reading skills.
Absolutely. It's an average of 6 weeks. I think the story really is that it's not a one-size-fits-all. Mm-hmm. We want to give kids what works for those that are just a little bit behind. But it is that intensive one-on-one that's an hour a day, every day, from anywhere to 4 to 14 weeks. We give an individual prescription for literacy for an individual child.
So Dr. Nikolai Vitti, the superintendent of Detroit schools, has asked you to scale up this program basically as rapidly as you can. What is the scope of the problem in the Detroit school system and in Michigan as a whole?
Well, you'll find in communities like Detroit that it's 85% that I say fall into that literacy gap. They're more than a grade level behind. But what's surprising, Nolan, is that almost any school district, you could take Rochester Hills or Birmingham, and they're coming in somewhere between 15 and 25% that are also in that gap for different reasons. It's not generational illiteracy. It would be ADHD, dyslexia, autism, English language learners. And so this epidemic is spreading, and we really just need to give kids what they need. They're showing up to school anyway. Let's just get them literate while they're there.
So you say 85% of the kids in the Detroit school district, in terms of raw numbers, that adds up to about 43,000 kids. And your program averages about $3,000 a kid to bring in the tutors and put the curriculum in place. So that's roughly $130 million to get every child in Detroit reading at grade level. It's a big amount of money for the school district, but what would its impact be on the district's performance as well as the overall cost for the state?
Well, year after year, we fund, our tax dollars fund public education for every child that shows up. And so we're spending over the K-12 investment of those 43,000 kids, we're going to be spending $8.6 billion to educate them. And they're not going to be able to access that investment unless they can read. And so I think the $130 million is a big number. But when you look at that's the investment to access 8.6 billion dollars, I mean, that is something that we really just need to do.
And in terms of the performance of the schools, when you talk about standardized testing and other measures that we use to grade schools on, how would it change things?
Well, it would change everything because now teachers couldn't have literate kids in the classroom. I would say that this is a silent epidemic. It's been with us well over 2 decades. And we now, maybe it started out, you had 20% of the kids that couldn't read. But year after year, we've ignored it. And we have 85% of the kids in a classroom for a teacher, and they can't read. We have, they're frontline workers, just like we have in our hospitals right now. But we have not flattened that curve. We have not helped them deal with all the issues in poverty. And literacy is a great place to start.
So if you had the money, how long would it take you to close that literacy gap in Detroit?
If it's the high school kids, it's a 3-year plan to tutor those kids. If it's the entire district, it's going to take 5 to 7 years, depending on how everything comes together. This isn't rocket science. We train a tutor. They are staff. They work an hour a day with kids, 5 days a week, and we get them literate. So hiring tutors, anyone, all walks of life can be a tutor.
Pamela Good, Beyond Basics, thank you for joining us today, and good luck with your campaign.
Oh, thank you, Nolan. Appreciate it so much.
In the first episode of a continuing series, One Detroit is taking a look at the city of Clawson. Before COVID-19 hit, businesses were on the upswing. Now they're making changes in order to survive. One Detroit's Bill Kubota and Chris Jordan have the story.
There's no customers in the store and we can maintain a 6-foot distance between our employees, then yeah, we might slip the masks off, just because they're a little annoying. But while we're in here and there's customers in the store, we're constantly masking, and we've got the, Lysol disinfectant wipes and blah, blah, blah. And is there something I could help you find today, sir?
I'll bet there is.
Oh, good.
The centerpiece on a turntable for 45.
So we have the kind you can put in the 45, or if you see these 45 adapters, and those are the kind that go over the spindle.
Flipside Records.
This is the sound. This is the sound of the slappers.
A store full of collectibles, vinyl, new, used. Right there in downtown Clawson, nestled between Royal Oak and Troy, southeast Oakland County, as Todd Fundero tries to survive. the pandemic.
I like to think of this as an emporium of escapism. Right?
Like yeah.
Anything to get your mind off of what's going on around us, right?
Yeah.
We got into the story of Clawson during the pandemic because of Flipside Records, your store in your town, Chris.
Yeah, so Flipside Records is where I've gone to buy my music since I was a teenager. And so to see them post on Facebook, hey, please call us and please buy our merchandise and come pick it up curbside. We need your help, because if people don't start shopping here curbside again, we're not going to be here when the pandemic is over. And they would do Facebook Live videos of, like, he'd hold his phone and flip through a bin of records and, like, just do, like, sort of a virtual browsing experience, basically. A couple weeks into the pandemic, you wrote that Facebook post, basically, come back in or else we won't be here.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the truth, right? It's not a matter of, you know, I can do curbside and people can pick up and stuff, but so that's a constant thing. And, you know, I don't want to be crying a sob story every week and this and that, you know, but I got bills to pay, and I know I have customers that don't want to see me close, right?
Fundero's store has been here for 38 years. Clawson, a city of 2.2 square miles, at the turn of the last century, a stop on the interurban rail that came north from Detroit. It's not clear how Clawson got its name. It said somehow the letter C got in front of a guy named Lawson and it stuck. Clawson boomed in the 50s and 60s. That's when the population peaked. 18,000, 6,000 more than today. For a while it was down, but never out.
I mean, if you look at those early streetcar suburbs, most of them have survived pretty well to the present day. They're still desirable places to live. Their housing stock is in good shape. And part of that is their location, because they're close in, so they got dibs on a good location. But part of it, I think, is also just the way they're laid out and designed.
You know, I remember Clawson in the 1960s. The streetcars were gone, but then they had I-75. You know, you just get off on 14-mile road down a couple miles, and you were there. And right on the other side of I-75 was the Oakland Mall. And when that came in, that kind of hollowed out the downtown back then.
When I was a kid was when Clawson kind of started to come back and reinvent itself. And they narrowed the roads, widened the sidewalks, and it became this very organic, walkable downtown that was really a fun place to go. And that's a quality that a lot of towns want to cultivate and that a lot of towns basically lack.
It's a push toward placemaking, as urban planners call it, the connection between space and people, providing a sense of, well, place.
Human scale is important, affordability is obviously important, and a sense of place is important. To an outsider, you have to be able to describe it and have the person be able to understand what that place looks like. You have to feel like you fit there in a particular way, I think. I think if you think of the suburbs, does Troy have a good sense of place? I don't think it really does. It has other advantages, sure, but I think sense of place is not one of them.
14 years ago when we moved in here, Clawson was a drive-through town. It was just a big conduit to I-75.
Leon and Lulu has unique home furnishings, clothes, art, curated hard-to-find things. A destination store like Flipside, where shoppers need to come in and browse. Actually, there are quite a few stores like that in Clawson. Supplies for magicians, comic book collectors. Here you can get your fine yarns and harps. Yes, harps, if you need more than one.
We have things here that nobody else has.
Clawson now is a lot of what it was Clawson then, that very small town family kind of feel. There was a time in the late 60s, 70s where we lost that. You know, when you lose the core of your community, you lose some of your identity. So this is all about making sure we retain that.
Retain and revive. The Clawson movie theater closed in the early 1960s. The Ambassador roller rink in 2005.
Both buildings were built in 1941. this building as a roller skating rink and the other as a movie theater. So we actually now own the entire entertainment district of Clawson.
Now this operation is helping with Clawson's sense of space. We're looking at how Clawson businesses deal with the pandemic. How will they figure their way out of this economic downturn?
Leon and Lulu is something of a small business innovator, which has become nationally known. They had a lot of in-store events like art shows and book signings, the kinds of things that they're struggling to figure out how to do again post-COVID. We caught up with Leon and Lulu owner Mary Liz Curtin back in May, when her doors were still shut because of the pandemic, and it would be a few more weeks before they were open again.
We're all scared that we're going to run out of money. We're scared that people are not going to come in. We're scared that too many of them are going to try to come in. We're afraid that when they come in, they're not going to like our stuff. We're afraid that when they come in and they buy our stuff, we won't be able to replenish it because there's supply chain issues. The biggest problem, I think, for every merchant of any kind is we're scared, but we don't know what we're scared of. We don't know how to react to it because it's all completely unknown.
By May, a staff of 40 reduced to a handful. Like Flipside, they were selling online.
Leon and Lulu did not have an online store. We really dedicated everything to a fabulous shopping experience in the store. Okay. So we had to learn how to sell things online, and we opened our low-tech web store. So that's brought us into a whole new kind of business that we haven't done before. The curbside pickup, the shipping, it's all new to us. Everything's new to us is the way it's all being handled.
Adding to the stress, last fall, Curtin opened a restaurant in the movie house called Three Cats, small plate farm-to-table fare, created by veteran restaurant man Matt Prentice, starting to get popular just in time for the shutdown.
Again, I've never been through this, and I've probably been around longer than 99% of the people in the restaurant business in Detroit today. So I had thought I'd seen everything until now.
Three Cats sold a lot of takeout when the shutdown hit, but it wasn't really enough. Now business is picking up for the restaurant and the store slowly. Estimates have the number of restaurants in Clawson tripling in the past 20 years, but at the corners of 14 Mile and Main, 3 restaurants sit closed before the pandemic hit. What about that?
Yeah, there was a Vietnamese restaurant on the corner that closed last year, a Pizza Hut that recently closed, although maybe that's not such a loss in a town defined by one-of-a-kind small businesses. But the really big loss was Black Lotus Brewery. Black Lotus had been there since 2006, and along with Leon and Lulu, was one of the really transformative businesses that had really led the resurgence of downtown Clawson. It was such a popular neighborhood spot that One Detroit even filmed a show there last year. So when it closed literally overnight last fall, that was a big shock to the system for downtown Clawson.
Well, it was a shock, but we do have some news. The eyes of Clawson upon them, there are a couple people looking to pick up where the Black Lotus left off.
We believe so much in Clawson that we decided to, frankly, bet everything we own and start this boom truck venture. You know, there's a lot of opportunity for Clawson to grow into something even more amazing.
Andrea and Tyler Williams now have what was the Black Lotus. It's a new restaurant called Puma Chug, and it could open as soon as next month.
Yeah, but what is the outlook going to be for restaurants, and especially new restaurants that are opening for the first time in this new world of COVID? So that's one of the big stories that we're going to be diving deeper into as we look into one small town's business district during the pandemic.
We'll check back in on Clawson in a future episode. For more, just go to our website at onedetroitpbs.org and tune into a new One Detroit Arts and Culture episode on Monday at 7:30 p.m. Finally, I want to take a moment to remember Jamie Samuelson, veteran radio broadcaster and husband of our own Christy McDonald. All of us here at Detroit Public Television want to extend our condolences and best wishes to Christy McDonald, the host of One Detroit and managing editor here, over the loss of her husband, Jamie Samuelson, who was a veteran sports broadcaster here in Metro Detroit. We all think of Christy as family here at Detroit Public Television, and so it is with extra sorrow that we learned of Jamie's death after a battle with colon cancer. If you think of the things that all of us are experiencing right now, the fear and the trauma and the loss because of the pandemic, it becomes even harder to understand or process a death like Jamie's that came so suddenly without much warning, and it really just takes an incredible toll, not just on the sports broadcasting community here and his professional circle, but especially his family and his friends. Anyone who knew Jamie knew what kind of person he was: dedicated and loyal, hardworking, and just one of the most decent people you would ever meet. We really want to extend, again, condolences to Christy and her family, and hope that they will be able to take care in this extremely, extremely sad time. For One Detroit, I'm Stephen Henderson. We'll see you next time, and take care.
You can find more at onedetroitpbs.org or subscribe to our social media channels and sign up for our One Detroit newsletter.
Support for this program provided by WK Kellogg Foundation, a partner with communities where children come first. The Cynthia and Etzel Ford Fund for Journalism at Detroit Public TV.
From Delta Faucets to Behr Paint, MASCO Corporation is proud to deliver products that enhance the way consumers all over the world experience and enjoy their living spaces. MASCO, serving Michigan communities since 1929. The DTE Foundation is a proud sponsor of Detroit Public TV, among the state's largest foundations committed to Michigan-focused giving. We support organizations that are doing exceptional work in our state. Visit dtefoundation.com to learn more.
Business Leaders for Michigan, dedicated to making Michigan a top 10 state for jobs, personal income, and a healthy economy. NISSAN Foundation, and viewers like you.